Hi, my name is Joe Weinman, and we're here today with incredible good fortune because Vinton Cerf, who is a longtime Google employee, but perhaps better known as one of the fathers of the internet, is here to celebrate the past 40 years of what the internet has meant for global connectivity and applications and collaboration in society, and maybe provide a look as to what the next 40 years will bring. So without further ado, welcome, Vint.
Thanks so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
So an obvious question is, that's very relevant to the people that are attending here, is this whole net neutrality debate. On the one hand, we don't want operators to, say, block Google from accessing their customers.
Or block anyone else.
Or anyone else, but since you're representing Google. For the other hand, you wouldn't want a situation where companies can't necessarily take advantage of class of service distinctions to be able to optimize their own unique applications. So what's your perspective on net neutrality?
Well, since this needs to be brief, first of all, I think that I have no objection to varying classes of service. The big issue is, does everybody have equal access to those services on the same terms and conditions? That's the real issue. It's not whether they exist or not, but whether or not everyone has equal access. On the consumer side, I think it's very important that the consumers feel that they have access to any of the products and services and destinations on the net that they want, and that they're not constrained in any way to get that. And that's really all that the net neutrality rules that I like need to accomplish, and that is to assure that there isn't any anti-competitive behavior emerging out of the way in which internet access is being offered.
So assuming that we do solve all these dilemmas appropriately in a way that is maximally satisfying to customers and companies, what do you think the next 40 years of the internet will hold?
Well, I wish that I had as clear a vision. I didn't have a very clear vision 40 years ago either. I had aspirations and hopes. One thing for sure is that there will be something like the internet 40 years from now. This notion of having access to communication conveniently, almost one term that a friend of mine used was ambient communication, in the same way that electricity is available, you plug it in the wall, you don't think about all the other infrastructure that's required to make that happen. So I'm pretty sure we will have something, it may not be called internet, but it will be communication on demand. It will have high capacity and low latency. And it will admit of a wide range of applications because so many devices will be programmable. Maybe 40 years from now, it would be hard to imagine a device that didn't have some software in it, even if it was only to keep track of its maintenance and its origins and everything else as opposed to its operation. So that, I think, for sure. The other thing I'm very hopeful for, of course, is that the interplanetary extension of the internet will not only be there, but it will have expanded dramatically over that period of time, with new missions having been launched for scientific reasons, and those spacecraft being repurposed when the primary mission is done to be nodes in an interplanetary backbone in order to support manned and robotic space exploration. I really wish I could be around to see all that happen. But
well, you never know. So as far as talking about nodes everywhere, obviously the Internet of Things is a big thing. Fog computing, taking resources out of the cloud and dispersing them more broadly, creates sort of an interesting relationship between communications and processing. And I know you had predicted that convergence many years ago, but what do you see as far as opportunities or threats given the coming ubiquity of tens of billions of devices?
So what I hope, frankly, apart from the fact that there are all kinds of issues associated with having all these devices, configuring them at scale, dealing with safety and security and reliability, coping with who has control of what, parents versus children, guests in the house versus the owners, all those complexities are going to have to be dealt with. I do think that as time goes on, more and more processing power will be locally placed in addition to cloud-based. I mean, cloud-based systems are very arguably efficient, but there will be some, I think, feeling of safety knowing that you also have your most important content locally as well, and maybe directed in various copies in places where you're comfortable. So the basic architecture, I think, will be very similar to what we see now, except that there will be more processing and storage, more distributed than it is today.
So just to wrap up, you've been coming to PTC for many years. Besides this interview, obviously, what's your favorite reason to be here?
Well, I have several. One of them is that a lot of the people who are here have a much better knowledge than I do about the Pacific Rim, especially the islands. It's something I care greatly about, is getting more of those populations up online. But they also bring a perspective that I don't necessarily always get by going at other conferences, because this is a highly international event. And what I look forward to, frankly, is discovering what people here are concerned about, what they're interested in, and what they're trying to accomplish. And that refills my rain barrel, and I look forward to that every time I'm here.
Okay, well, thank you. And there you have it, some insights from Vinton Cerf, the one and only Vinton Cerf. So stay tuned to PTC TV, and we'll see you soon.